Week 7 is here and it's time to lock in those FPL teams. Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan and it's time for me to pick my Game Week 7 team and make some transfers as we move to the new game week. So Game Week 6 was rough for a lot of people, and it seemed to be one of those weeks where if you don't have a certain player, you're just doomed to a bad game week. And with so many people having Cole Palmer in their team and me not having Cole Palmer in my team, I was always going to get a red arrow here. But there are some positivities here that I want to take. And actually, I'm not feeling too negative despite my red arrow. First of all, the difference between ranks is so small still. Like, I only need like 15 points and I'm in the top million. I only need 50, 60 points and I'm in the top 100,000. This is very little and we're still so early in the game. And what we're going to find earlier on in the season is we're going to have those super big swings each week. When you can't own all of the premium players, if the premium player that you don't have, in this case, it was Palmer, if he scores well and the guy you have, Saka, Haaland, these are my two expensive players, if they don't perform well on an individual game week, then it's going to look bad. But next game week, it could be very different. Saka and Haaland can score 20 points each, maybe Palmer blanks. And, you know, things will just swing back and forth until things begin to settle further on in the season. That's just the game we're playing right now. We have to accept that. And I'm certainly accepting of that. Now, the other positives I'm taking from my game week is that I didn't wildcard. And that's a huge advantage. I saw a lot of people wildcarding and actually getting less points than my 47. So I don't see this as a disaster, really. I've got a very clear plan now of wildcarding in game week 12, and I think there was some very positive displays from my team as well. Gvardiol coming in clutch with that goal and Burmo looking really hot. Rodgers continues to perform and I'm glad I have Havertz as well ahead of this Southampton fixture. So there's lots of positives to be taken. Even the Liverpool defenders, I think, unlucky to not keep a clean sheet in that game. Robertson unlucky not to get an assist in that game. Small fine margins. There are definitely some problems in my team, but that's what transfers are for and that's what I'm going to use to address them moving forward. And I've got a plan and I'm excited to share it with you and I'm feeling positive and I think you guys should feel positive as well. One more note, I mentioned this on Twitter before and on the Stick to FPL podcast we recorded on Monday, that went out on Tuesday. I did mention that in a couple of seasons ago, I didn't even get into the top 2 million until game week 2021, and I finished 30,000th in the world in that season. So, you know, we are so early, so much can change still, and it's definitely not panic stations after 6 game weeks. It really isn't. But we need to move on. We need to address some issues, and we need to progress our FPL team. So let's do that now. But before we do, if you are enjoying the content on the FPL Mate channel, make sure you drop a like. Massive shout out, by the way, to all of you guys liking the videos every time. You guys really are making a difference to this channel. You're absolute legends. Do subscribe as well if you want to follow along with my moves each and every week. Alrighty then, game week 7, we have got one free transfer to use and a little bit of money in the bank, but nothing crazy here. Let's lay out my team as it is and then we'll move from there. So first of all, Henderson is going to be my goalkeeper. Liverpool is the fixture. I don't need to tell you guys that this is bad. It's not great. The thing is about goalkeepers is they are rarely worth making a transfer for. I don't see myself making a goalkeeper transfer until the next wild card in game week 12. And we'll probably go for someone like Raya at that point. But it's fine. I'm not too fast. I think there are some good fixtures coming up for Henderson. And Crystal Palace, they haven't been dreadful defensively. They started off the season quite poorly, but there has been some more positive signs over the last couple of game weeks where I might see an occasional clean sheet. Save points are going to come, and in a game like Liverpool, I'm not expecting a clean sheet, but I can definitely see a couple of save points. If I can get a 2-pointer from Henderson, I think that's just as good as making a transfer on him. There's not really too much out there around 4.5 million that I think is particularly better over a several game week period, to be fair. You know, some of you guys might say Flecken or Sanchez. I don't know. Henderson, it doesn't seem that much worse. It's just a bad game week for him, but that is part of FPL, right? Into defense, we have got Trent Alexander-Arnold, and Liverpool still looking really good defensively. In fact, only 4.3 non-penalty expected goals against so far this season, which is very low. They're kind of looking to concede 2 goals every 3 games, maybe, which is very nice numbers indeed. And in these favourable fixtures like Crystal Palace, who have been struggling for goals a little bit at the moment, we can expect potential clean sheets here. So, yeah, Trent, very, very nice. Obviously, continues to create a lot, which I like. We've also got Robertson in the team, another player who has shown a bit of more creativity, actually, last game. Like I mentioned, very unlucky not to get an assist. Before that goal conceded due to the Konate mistake, Robertson was on for bonus points because he created a couple of chances. He created this huge chance for Szoboszlai, who really should have put that away, but it wasn't to be. But fine margins. On another game week, that finds the back of the net. On another game week, it's a clean sheet. And game week 7 is another game week. So, yeah, definitely maintain some positivity there, and we'll see what happens. We're now up to 9 key passes, 2 big chances created for Robertson, and he's also taken 3 shots with 1 big chance, yet to get an attacking return. But again, these numbers suggest that it's on the horizon. Just like we said with Trent a couple of weeks ago, it looks likely that we're going to get an attacking return soon, and we did with Trent. Robertson, now similar situation. And another player, Gvardiol, another player who it looked like it was getting more and more positive for attacking returns, and then now he's got one. So, yes, we saw some positivity. Now, Gvardiol is, I think, a very trendy player right now. I think a lot of people are looking to bring him in this game week. So I feel quite privileged that I did keep him in my team despite a mixed start for him. But this run of fixtures is really nice for Man City. They always look strong defensively. They seem to concede very, very few chances. And yeah, it was a penalty that wiped their clean sheet last game week. But in another game week, again, could look much better. City, by the way, second best for defensive numbers, 4.6 non-penalty expected goals against so far this season, which puts them just behind the likes of Liverpool. So pretty good. The swing between Liverpool's clean sheets and Man City's clean sheets so far this season is quite significant. And yeah, I expect that to average out a little bit as we move forward. Speaking of moving forward, let's move forward up the pitch, and Saka is in my team. Southampton at home is the fixture, and Southampton is just an incredible fixture. It really is. Southampton just do not look up to scratch, do not look up to standard at the moment, and we saw that again against Bournemouth. 3 goals conceded in that first half. They just look like the weakest team in the league, and you expect a team like Arsenal, with all the quality that they have, the form that they have, coming off the back of a 2-0 victory against Paris Saint-Germain in the midweek, where Saka scored in that game. Well, hopefully he's going to get some more results. Saka really unlucky last game week. He did so much, created, he probably could have had 2 assists in that game, maybe even a goal as well. Again, on another game week, maybe it comes through. On another game week, maybe Arsenal get a penalty and Saka's the guy taking it. So he is definitely a player I want to have for this game week. And I know some people will say, well, why won't you move to Cole Palmer? You've got a free transfer, you've got money in the bank, you can afford to do Saka to Palmer. It's just not the moment for it, in my opinion. The fixture is just too good for Saka. And I think Palmer against Forest is just not a good fixture. Forest have been the 3rd best defence in the league. And, Southampton are this very, very weak team. Forest are this strong defence. I just don't see how a Saka to Palmer move can be worthwhile on paper. Of course, football is not played on paper, but it's definitely a player I'm eyeing up. And for all people saying, Dan, you need to get Palmer in your team. Palmer is just this incredible player. I definitely agree with you. And there is no way he's not in my team by the time I get to my Game Week 12 wildcard. He will be in my Game Week 12 wildcard team, and I might even bring him in maybe Game Week 9 when Saka faces Liverpool. But I want to get this Forest and Liverpool fixture out of the way for Palmer, and then I want to reopen that discussion, because I think switching between premium players who can get these big hauls is going to be definitely something that is going to be beneficial in FPL. There are so many premium players, you can't have them all at the same time. So owning the right ones at the right moment is probably going to be a big key to what we're kind of doing here. So Saka stays for now. And honestly, good. Honestly, good. This is a good thing, right? And Burmo next, Wolves at home. He's been in fantastic form as well recently. One of the top scoring players in FPL this season. He's not quite Harden level, but he scored 5 goals already in 6 game weeks, taking plenty of shots every single game, always in those dangerous areas, taking the set pieces for Brentford, penalty taker for Brentford. This guy is just him. He's like the #1 recommended transfer for everyone, I think. If you don't have Burmo in your team right now, now, what are you waiting for? Because the good fixtures just keep on coming. Eze is my next player, and this is where the disappointments really kick in. He's been the biggest letdown in my team so far this season. There's no doubt about that. And he has massively underperformed on his numbers, which is disappointing. The problem is the good fixtures are kind of done now for a little while. The next 3 fixtures, Liverpool, Forest, who, as I mentioned, I think is a really tough opposition, and Spurs as well, who are vastly improved defensively from where they were last season. So we look at the next 3 fixtures. We've got the number 1 defence in there, the number 3 defence in there, and Spurs actually number 5 defence when we're looking at those underlying numbers, which usually are a good indicator of the longer term prospects of a team's clean sheet potential, or keeping the scorelines low kind of potential, which I think each of these 3 teams will keep the score low against Crystal Palace. I don't see Palace scoring more than 1 or 2 goals in any of these games, and that's if they're fortunate. So Eze kind of probably has to go, right? So we're going to talk about my replacement for him very shortly. Rodgers is next. I put Man United down as a medium fixture, but right now you would argue that this is actually a very good fixture, particularly with Aston Villa's form. And Rodgers, really a player who's really finally kind of doing what we hoped he would do at that cheap price. 2 assists in game week 5, a goal in game week 6. Very nice indeed. And I think this fixture kind of suits him as well. I think this is the kind of fixture where he can thrive. So we enjoy Aston Villa's form to a degree. Obviously the Bayern game, scoring goals against Ipswich, although, Ipswich did put up a fight there. But Manchester United, you expect a Villa win here at home as well. And you think Rodgers would be involved given the tactical matchups there. Up front, we have got Erling Haaland against Fulham at home, which is a pretty decent fixture for him. Disappointed last game week for the first time this season, but we know that's not forever, don't we, guys? He's going to be back on the score sheet before you know it. And the good fixtures, again, keep coming for him. I'm particularly looking forward to Southampton at home in game week 9 for him. I might play the triple captainship in that week. I haven't decided for sure yet, but it is something that is very much on my mind. Triple captain in game week 9 for Haaland could be pretty big, right, guys? Havertz is another player I have. A little bit of a differential. I think most people have that, well, particularly those who wildcarded recently, have a more of a defense focus for their Arsenal players. And one of the, I guess, benefits of having not wildcarded is that I have no Arsenal defenders. Which sounds bad. Last game week, that sounded really bad. But now that they didn't keep a clean sheet against Leicester, Southampton's really the only good fixture from a defensive point of view for Arsenal for some weeks now. So having the attackers, I think, is nicer in a way, particularly for this Southampton game. I think this is going to be a big scoreline. And if Saka and Havertz are getting involved in goals, and I think Havertz will definitely be a player involved in goals as well. He is taking some of the highest volumes of shots in the box, decent XG, 2xG, almost 2xG generated in the Leicester game alone. So, we do expect him to potentially go pretty big in this game week. So let's see what happens there. But I feel confident about having Havertz. And I like that I have the double attack rather than anything in defence. Hey, a defender would be nice, of course, from Arsenal, but I think after this game week, I won't really miss it, to be honest. So Havertz for now. Have got an eye on maybe transferring him out in the near future. And Vardy is my final player in my starting 11. Bournemouth at home is the fixture, which is okay. I prefer the future fixtures for Vardy a little bit. We've got Southampton and Ipswich coming up, but Bournemouth is an okay fixture for him. Penalties are always going to be very helpful to have, and he's a player who's already scored goals in the Premier League this season. So can he pop up out of nowhere and grab another goal for me? I hope so, because we don't have too much on the bench. Because on the bench, Valdemarson is going to stay on the bench. Smith Rowe away against Man City, nice player to have, but not for this game week. He can stay right where he is. And Johnson and Harwood-Bellis. Harwood-Bellis, by the way, scored last game week. How has that happened? But he was on my bench, and he will be on my bench once again for this game week. I don't think I fancy him against the mighty Arsenal. No, sirree. But we got to make a transfer, and I think we've got to make an Eze transfer. That's the priority here, so that's what we're going to do. And I've had a look at a couple of players for an Eze replacement, I suppose, and there's two. The first one is Trossard, where I go all in on the Arsenal attack. Triple Arsenal attack, it's super differential and really attack the Southampton fixture. And then when the fixtures get a little worse, we maybe reassess. And I would be looking to move on both Havertz, and if I brought in Trossard, I'd probably look to remove him again. And that kind of questions, is it going to be worth it? Is the potential for Trossard in the next game or two worth taking him for a short-term punt? Well, now I do have a wild card, which changes things a little bit. I don't need a player forever. And whilst Ødegaard is out, and he's still expected to be out for at least a few more weeks, well, Trossard is going to be playing, or continuing to play, as the central striker for Arsenal, which is really, really nice. Central striker for Arsenal as a cheap midfielder. Brilliant, particularly in this fixture. But he would be a player who I wouldn't be as happy with moving forward. And I do have Smith Rowe on the bench here, so I can maybe do some rotations here. But I'm not super convinced. I think that would be a bold and risky move. But there is another move that I think is a little more sensible. And that move is indeed, well, let's just throw it on screen, guys. So Eza to Brennan Johnson is the move that I think I'm going to go for this week, to be honest. A little bit cheaper than Trossard at 6.4 million. He has taken 18 shots so far this season, all in the box. Decent XG numbers, always in dangerous positions. 2 goals and 2 assists in 6 games, including 1 sub-appearance, by the way. And also he scored 2 goals in other competitions. 1 goal in the League Cup, 1 goal in Europe. So he's a player in red-hot form right now, seriously good form. And I think being that winger, that I think is going to be useful for the fixtures that we have coming up for him. Like we've got this Brighton team who, of course, we didn't know about this prior to the deadline, but obviously Palmer was able to do some damage, but we have some injury issues in the Brighton defence at the moment, particularly Van Hecke, and because of that, Chelsea were really able to exploit that. Now, it looks like Van Hecke is going to be out again this game week, which turns Brighton actually into a good fixture right now. After that, West Ham, good fixture. Crystal Palace, good fixture. Aston Villa, we know they're conceding goals as well. So the good fixtures keep coming. I think we've got Ipswich as well in game week 11, and that'll be the game week before I wildcard as well. So Johnson is a player, if I was to bring him in now, again, kind of like Mbermo, I'm talking about players that I bring in now and I'm just happy to just hold through the period, and I don't need to worry about making transfers, and I can focus my transfers on switching out some of those more expensive players, trying to hit the right big players in the right game weeks, and just have those glue guys in my team to back it up. So Brennan Johnson, I think, can definitely be that, given the form, given the numbers, given the fixtures. Everything is looking good for him right now, and I think he is going to benefit a lot from Solanke occupying defenders at the moment. He's occupying centre-backs, and that is allowing a bit of freedom for not only the wingers, but also the midfielders to come into play a little bit for Spurs, and Johnson seems to be the main beneficiary of that right now. So I like this move a lot. I'm still thinking about Trossard for the upside in game week 7, but Brennan Johnson's where my head is at right now, and it frees up a little bit more budget for me as well. In terms of captaincy, Haaland is going to be my captain for this week, no doubt about that. Saka vice captain, I would think about Saka captain, of course, but I just don't see him as a high upside player. I can't see him getting 20 pointers, where we know Haaland, well, he's already got a couple of 17 pointers under his belt, hasn't he? So definitely Saka is a great pick to have for this game week, but am I going to captain him? Not quite as convinced with him as I am with Haaland. I think he is someone to consider, but I'm not quite there in terms of actually captaining him. So we'll go for Haaland as our captain. And with that, guys, I think my team genuinely looks really good. Considering I haven't wildcarded yet, I haven't triple captained yet, haven't used any chips. For this game week, every one of my players has a green fixture other than Henderson, goalkeeper, and Rodgers against Manchester United, which I think you can make an argument is a green fixture anyway. So it looks good, it looks strong. There's definitely other things that I need to do in future game weeks and plans that I need to think about moving forward. So let's go through them very quickly now. So of course, guys, we are back on the Fantasy Football Hub, my team tool. Of course, we do still have 50% off Hub right now if you want to get that discount link in the description. Although I do believe the money back guarantee offer has run out now, but you can still get half price, which is very, very good. That won't last forever. So get involved if you want that deal now. But This is my team right now. We're on a 95% team rating before a transfer. It's going to go down a little bit, I believe, when we remove Trossard, because Trossard's numbers are just... remove Eze, because his numbers are so good. Trossard is one of my suggested transfers from the AI, so he's definitely on the radar. However, I just can't get Johnson out of my head for just a safe and sensible pick. He's not even that, like, I say safe. He's super differential. We're looking at a player who's 1.8% owned right now, so this is actually a really nice differential that also gives you stability in terms of fixtures, and it also has great numbers. So yeah, everything looking really good for him. He's kind of everything you want as an FPL manager, to get something a little bit different, to get something quite nice like that. So it's an opportunity as well, because a lot of the wildcarders, they won't have an Eze to sell. They won't have a bad midfielder to sell. And they won't be moving to players like Brennan Johnson. So, which is nice. It's going to be a nice distinguisher. I know a lot of people recently have been complaining, oh, all of the content creators' teams are the same. I don't actually agree. Well, for my team anyway, obviously I didn't wildcard. I've got some differences here. I've got a couple of different players like Havertz, Vardy, and now Johnson. And with the double Liverpool defence as well. Don't see many people with that. Had Gvardiol for a long time as well. So I think there are some key differences in my team, and things will continue to diversify as we get more information as well. I think everyone goes a little safe at the start of the season, similar numbers backed, but now we can start finding our own paths and exploring our own play styles in FPL. So Brennan Johnson for this week, let's make that transfer. He looks good against Brighton. Moving on into game week 8. And I have a bit of a decision to make here, because one player that I really want at the moment, and I would want him for game week, I want him for game week 7 really, but I don't know if that's possible, because I have Havertz, not going to sell him. But Solanke, 7.6 million right now. From game week 8, he'll play West Ham, Palace, Aston Villa and Ipswich before my wild card in 12. So I've got no problem with loading up on the Spurs players, because they'll all be out on my wild card in 12 anyway, or at least some of them will be out. Maybe some of them keep their place regardless, depending on performances. But game week 8, I think for that Bournemouth away fixture, which is a little bit tough, I'd be very tempted to move Havertz to Solanke. I could maybe wait until game week 9 before doing that, but we'll see. But Havertz to Solanke is a possible move there. So let's make that transfer for game week 8 just to show you guys. Smith Rowe would probably play instead of Rodgers because he plays for the home team there. Which brings us to the game week 8. What's my transfer going to be here? Well, the big issue is I still have a couple of Liverpool players against Arsenal and one Arsenal player against Liverpool, which is not ideal. Particularly Arsenal, who after that, I think Newcastle away is going to be not as easy as you think it would be, as we saw at St James's Park against Man City. Not great. Chelsea away, I don't think is a good fixture either. So we got the 3 fixtures before my wild card. And I think I'd want to remove Saka as well. Ideally, they're just going to be better premiums to go for. Now, Palmer is the obvious one. From this time, he faces Newcastle and Manchester United back-to-back, but then faces Arsenal after that. Tough. But is he worth going for these 2 fixtures? Possibly. The other option is Foden. Now, Foden's playing regularly by this point. Then maybe he could be a nice player to go for. Southampton at home in 9. Bournemouth away and then Brighton away. So, you know, solid fixtures. You're happy with all 3 of them. And the other option is to remove a Liverpool defender. Now, where would I go? Pedro Porro is most likely. So Robertson out for Pedro Porro is definitely an option for me. From here, game week 9, 10, 11, the fixtures look good. Palace, Villa and Ipswich. And obviously Pedro Porro has that attacking threat as well. But do I want triple Spurs? I don't know if I do, to be honest. I'm meant to be an Arsenal fan. It's not very Arsenal of me, is it? But yeah, it's an idea. It's an option. Not as convinced by that one. So I think I'll probably continue my trend of, well, my kind of, I don't know, I guess my strategy that I think will come into play of premium hopping. And that would involve switching players like Solanke in for Havertz, who's kind of almost premium, semi-premium, and Saka out for someone like Palmer or Foden, depending on things. So that's what I'm thinking right now, and I think that looks good. I think that looks like a really strong strategy moving forward, and I think this is going to work. But guys, make sure you do check out Fantasy Football Hub using the link at the top of the description if you want to start planning out your team as well as having access to all of their many other tools, articles. There's so much stuff on there. There really is. I use it all the time, guys. But let me know what you think of my team. Drop a like if you did enjoy this one. Subscribe if you're new around here. And YouTube recommends you watch this video next. Don't ignore YouTube. It knows everything. See you later, mates. Bye-bye.